Welcome everyone to the battle between Nodirbek Abdusattorov, the top Uzbek player on the left, versus Erdogmus Yagiz Kaan, one of the rising stars in the world of chess from Turkey. Yaz, just 14 years old, executed one of the most beautiful checkmates in the tournament FIDE Grand Swiss against Aditya in the previous round, and now faces Nodirbek Abdusattorov. c4, e6, knight comes out to c3, and this will be a real test for Yaz. He's already drawn against Gukesh, the world champion, and now faces another world-class grandmaster. d4 played. In the background you can see Yaz's mother watching the game. C takes d5. We have the Tarash defense here. E takes d5, calmly taking back the pawn. Knight to f3 played, and now knight comes out to c6. Nodirbek plays the main line against the Tarash with g3. This is considered slightly better for white, but with modern engines this has all been worked out to equality, and as you can see, this is becoming the main way to play. Earlier they would play something like bishop e7, but now pawn takes and bishop c5. This is the main line, but playing it against a player like Nodirbek does come with its own challenges because he's so well prepared. He goes knight to b3. Now main move is bishop to b6, sacrificing the pawn in the center. Taking this is not particularly a great idea, as after bishop e6 black has a good position, so castles is the main move here. And d4, Yaz is of course very well prepared. He is training with Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. Knight a4 and short castles is the main move. Now one of the main lines is to take on b6, then take on c6, take on d4, but that's well known. So Nodirbek comes up with a new idea, queen d3, and you can see that Yaz takes 18 minutes now, plays rook e8, knight takes on b6. Logically taking back with the pawn seems to be the right decision. Pawn takes, and now Nodirbek brings his rook to d1. Now rook a4 is important move to defend the pawn, but he makes a mistake. He goes bishop to g4, and this allows Nodirbek to take in the center. Bishop takes e2. Well, he should have tried knight takes, queen takes and bishop e2, but bishop e2. The problem now here you can see is after queen takes, rook takes. Of course Yaz understands that his position is terrible. The main point being that white has such a good structure, the bishop pair, and now rook to d1, calmly played. This is lost already out of the opening. The only solace that black has is the active rook on e2, but it will also be smoked out now with bishop f1. So Nodirbek can really look forward to a nice grind here. a3, a useful move so that the pawn on a2 wouldn't be hanging when the rook moves. Rook to d5, offering a trade of rooks, maybe just bishop e3 here. Yes, bishop to e3, attacking the pawn on b6. He goes rook to d8, and now bishop e2. He avoids the trade. He goes rook c1, pawn to b5. Yaz is fighting. He's fighting here. Pawn to b4, fixing the b5 pawn weakness. Maybe bishop c5 followed by bishop takes b5. Knight comes to e4, and now bishop g2, pinning the knight here. Yaz pushes his pawn to f5, and now g4. Nodirbek starts to get a bit aggressive here. Rook to e8. You will see that after gf5, you like that position for the bishops because now there's more juice for them, a much more open board. Rook to d1 played. Nodirbek is calmly making his moves, hoping that his young opponent will go wrong here. Rook c1, another strong move, attacking the knight on c6. And knight to g4, attacking the bishop on e3. He goes bishop to c5. And now the knight comes to e5. Plays rook to c3. Knight jumps into c4. Some stability for that knight there, but can always be kicked away with a4 at some point. h4, rook f4, attacking the pawn here. Nodirbek pushes it even further. Isn't this pawn weak now? Well, Nodirbek says not really. King f1 comes in. And now rook g5 attacking here. But there is rook d5. Oh, instead he goes bishop d5. King goes to h8 and bishop f7. Lovely play here by Abdusattorov. And rook to a8. Yaz is down to his last minute with 5 more moves to make. Bishop g6. And rook g4, again not really grabbing this pawn, as that would allow some back rank issues. Rook to d5. b6 played fairly quickly. Now bishop takes b6 should be good, but he first plays f3. Rook goes to g5 and this is over. Rook takes g5, h takes g5, and we are about to reach move 40 and Nodirbek finds it. So bishop b6, if you take knight takes b6, the knight on c6 is hanging, so he goes knight e5, and with bd4, Nodirbek now completely winning here. Totally winning. Knight takes g6, h takes g6, and rook a6 played, attacking the pawn on g6. He goes king g2, king to g8, and rook comes back to c1. It's a +3 position for white, especially with the weak king, a strong bishop. Everything is just perfect. Gives a check. You can see the expression of Yaz. He's not particularly thrilled about this position. He goes knight e5, trying to win back this pawn. Bishop e3 is important move for Nodirbek. Finds it. Bishop e3. Now the rook has to come back, otherwise there's a checkmate waiting there. Bishop takes g5, attacking the rook. And rook a8 played. And he goes rook to c7. Yaz chops off the pawn. And now bishop comes back to c1. Such a beautiful move, defending. Also planning to attack here on g7. Bishop goes to b2. Rook f7, and now just simply take the rook and it's winning. So Nodirbek totally winning now. Next order of the day is king comes up to g4. Not so sure if this was the best move, but he is converting this confidently, bringing the king in. He's a pawn down here. Knight d7. Knight b6 comes in. And king to d4. King e6. I can't go king c5 because of check. So bishop comes back to c1. King d6. Bishop check. This should be straightforward for Nodirbek. However, it seems like black has managed to improve the position slightly. Bishop e5, g6. And he comes back bishop f4. Yaz putting up stiff resistance here. Knight to d7. He goes bishop to g5. And king comes to d6. Waiting here, maybe threatening a check. Knight to b6. And now a check could be useful. Because if you go this side, I go this side. If you go this side, I go this side maybe. King c6, but not really. He has to play bishop f4, because if he goes king e5, there's knight c4 and you lose this pawn. So bishop f4, knight d7. Bishop h6. Nodirbek not really letting this slip by just yet. Knight b6. Yaz is like, I'll fight till the brutal end, till the very end. Bishop f6 played. Knight to d7. Brings his bishop back. Now knight to f8. The king goes to e4, hoping to go here. Knight to d7, and now king f4. He goes in with the king, but this is a mistake. King d5 could have been better here, but king e6 played. Bishop c7, and now knight f6 threatening here. Yaz seems to have come back into the game. What a fighter! What a fighter! King g5 and just king f7. Whoa! Amazing defense. Nodirbek brings the bishop back. Knight to d5. And now this idea of coming here. So bishop d4, but you go knight e7. Another beautiful move. And he comes back with his king. You need to also bring your king up. We have reached move 75. King e4 played. And Yaz goes knight d5. Maybe better was knight f5. But knight d5 played. And now bishop e3. Maybe bishop h8. But knight e7. Bishop to g1. It's very difficult to play this endgame accurately. Yaz is down to his last 30 seconds. No more time increment for him. Bishop h2. And again finds the best move. Knight h4 to keep an eye on this pawn. Bishop f4. Knight comes back. And bishop c7. King goes to d7, attacking the bishop. And you can see Nodirbek is not at all happy there. He knows that every half point in Grand Swiss has its weight in gold. And here he has kind of botched up a very good position. But the hope's still alive. Hopes are still alive. King f4. Knight to f5 played. King comes up to g5. King f7. And now king g4. He's trying to somehow trick Yaz. And I think it's possible to trick your opponent as he has less time. But you know, Yaz has been defending so brilliantly. So brilliantly. King e4. Knight check. At some point you will have to move this bishop away, because it's kind of in the path of the king. King here to f6, king e4, trying to get in, king e6, blocking the way. Bishop f2, king d6. And now bishop to e1 played. He goes back king e6 here. Bishop to d2. King d6. And bishop to g5. Yaz gives a check. Comes back. And now bishop d8. Where is Nodirbek's entry point? King g5 met with king f7. Black king doing an incredibly good job. Yaz goes for a check again. This is move number 99. About to hit move 100. And 100 moves completed here. Bishop b6. And when Yaz plays, it will be done. Yes, king f6. Wow. And you can sense it from Nodirbek Abdusattorov's body language that he is not going to agree to a draw anytime soon. Bishop h2. And he calls the arbiter. I'm not sure for what reason. Maybe it's 50 moves. The last exchange that happened according to Yaz was on move 52. King takes f7. But it's not only about exchanges, it's also about the pawn move. 59th move was the pawn move. So in a way, he can claim a draw only on 109th move. But right now, if we look at the position, it is 102nd move here. So Yaz has got it a bit wrong. There we have the arbiter coming in and blocking the view. It's what the rule says is either there should be an exchange or there should be no pawn moves. And you know, Nodirbek here kind of now understands that he has only 7 more moves left. Either he must push a pawn or he must trade something. Bishop f4, knight to h4, king d4, and you can see there now Yaz can take the pawn already. So Nodirbek now making some quick progress. He goes g5, bishop comes to e3, Yaz takes the pawn, Nodirbek goes in, king to c5. This is becoming a race now. g4 played, king takes b5, g3 maybe, push the pawn even further, g3, but are white pawns more dangerous? B pawn running down. Do we go g2? No, first bring the king in. Very good defense by Yaz. b5 and king e4. Oh wow, he's going the other side. This is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. King d5, and there are no good squares now for the bishop. He'll come back to attack it. Incredible defense here. Bishop a7, but now knight to d4, the only move to block the bishop. Finds it. Bishop takes d4. We are going into a queen endgame where both sides are making queen. Black will make it sooner. Queen, and well, the 50 move rules are beginning. 117 moves done, and arbiters like there are more moves done. You need to write it. Pauses the clock. And like maybe the moves are not matching. And Yaz is at 100 and perhaps it has to be the same on both the score sheets. Don't know who has written less moves or more moves. The arbiter is giving perhaps a little bit more time to one of the players. Not sure who. And Nodirbek is like maybe he needs to change. Wow. Some confusion with move numbers here. And the arbiter maybe gave some more time to Yaz there. Queen c1. Check. Or not so sure whom was the time given to. But the game begins again. Maybe Yaz's pen has stopped. Oh, he needs a score sheet. Very interesting, this game. Closing in on 120 moves, so you need a more second score sheet also filled up. Insane. Let's take a stock of the position. A4 played. It should be drawn objectively, but quite a difficult defense here, considering the A pawn is dangerous. And look at Yaz, he's doing the right thing. He's running his king away in the opposite direction of the pawn where it could queen e5. Nodirbek is hoping for his opponent to get tired. King b4, queen check, king a3 played, queen c6, and he pushes pawn one step ahead. So slowly and steadily the pawn is moving ahead. Check. Goes king b4. Another check here. King starts moving ahead. Important for white. Another check. King goes to d6. Queen to a4 played. Interesting move. It's whenever you're not giving a check, it does feel a bit dangerous. King g4 played. Wow. King to c7. How is Yaz even able to calculate that there are no checks which gets the queens traded? That's just a superpower there. King c8. Queen f5. King b8 played. Check. King b7. Check. He goes king a6. And now queen f1 check. King goes to b6. Another check to f6 back. King to b5. And now no checks, because if a check, I block it with a counter check. So king h3, running away to the corner of the board. King h2. Yaz is super tired. a6. Nodirbek looks fresh as ever. That's the superpower of Nodirbek. He just doesn't get tired. He knows how to grind. This is one of his favorite things to do in chess. And now will at some point the checks come to an end for white, or has Yaz found the best way to keep checking? I'm not so sure. Let's see. King c7. Goes another check. 2 seconds on the clock for Yaz. King d6. Gives another check. Queen e6. Queen d4 check. King c6. And he gives another check here. He's bringing his king to d7. Check from g7, not here because of counter check. So blocks. Again, no check here. So queen checks from this side. King c7. 147 moves made. Queen check. Gives another check. King b8. Have we run out of checks finally? No, there's a check from the side. But now king a7, and maybe the only check is to come here, but he doesn't check. He comes queen d5, and I wonder how does Yaz find a move like this? Queen to b7. Check. King a8, and now king h3. Very important move, finds it, because a check would mean a counter check. So he moves his king. Queen c8 check. King h4. Plays queen c7. Check to the king. Brings his king to b8. But now the checks will once again reign here. Queen b4 check. He goes to the c8 square. Queen d7, another check. King b7 played. Check here. King a7. Check. What a defense this has been. Insane. To think about it, Yaz was worse after just 15 or 16 moves in the game. From there to now 160 moves. But it's still something where you have to be careful. But it seems like he has managed to find that perfect space for the black king where there are no checks by the white queen through blocking. And another check. Queen f7 check. King c8. Check. He goes king b7. Check. And queen c6 played. Queen check. Well, king goes to c7. The checks are not stopping somehow. And it feels like Nodirbek is running out of steam. Yaz is showing his insane resilience. And by now, many players would have collapsed against Nodirbek. Many. Queen check. King a5. Look at that. Nodirbek trying to wriggle out from that side, so that if you give a check, counter check here. So queen d8. King b4. Queen d2 check. King a3. Oof. He has had to bring his king all the way back just to have some chances to win, but there seems to be none. Check. And another check. The way in which Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus has majorly been able to sort of hold his own here is so impressive. So impressive. King b7. Simply giving a check. King c8. Check. $181 moves, guys. Wow. Queen moves in. Yaz gives another check. Often it so happens you give a check and then you realize, oh, I didn't want my queen to be there in that space at all. Queen e7. I don't know how long will Nodirbek continue playing here. It's already been more than 8 hours of play. But Nodirbek wants that full point so badly. This is the reason why players like Nodirbek, Prag, Gukesh, Arjun are right there at the top. It's their hunger to win. But here Yaz now just doesn't stop with the checks. King here. Queen blocks. Queen b3. Queen a1. I believe you have to claim 50 moves. Nodirbek is not a guy who will stop. But I don't know if pawn to a6. When was it played last? Queen e5 check. He gets up this time again trying to claim. Yaz is incredibly sharp. King b4 played by Nodirbek, and turns out that pawn to a6 move was made on 137th move. So we have officially crossed 50 moves with no capture and no pawn move. And you can see Yaz checking his score sheet for the last pawn move. Look at Nodirbek there. He puts his score sheet down there. He can claim. He can claim. This has to stop the clock though, or else he could run out of time. Well, he wants to play on, but... And Nodirbek looks at his score sheet here. And Yaz now calls the arbiter and says, I'm playing Queen d6. More than 50 moves. 50 moves are done. It's a draw. Nodirbek, before shaking hands, wants to check it once. He shows that here is a6. 137th move is pawn a6, and now we are at move number 190. Handshake there. Arbiters start clapping. In fact, I think it was the press officer Alex Kolovich who started to clap there. Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus, what a guy. And Nodirbek, like a gentleman, shakes hands, acknowledging Yaz's defense, and Yaz's mother waiting patiently for more than 8.5 hours. Incredible defense there by the youngster, just 14 years old. And you know, these youngsters often win games that are brilliant, but to defend like this against a world-class player shows the patience and the resilience of the kid. And many big more achievements are there to come for Yaz as Nodirbek leaves. Yaz's mother waits there to meet her son, and whoa, that smile on his face and a hug that is there after 8.5 hours of fight. Incredible 190 moves. Congratulations to Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus. I would say one of the most epic games of his chess career, to hold Nodirbek Abdusattorov to a draw in such a style. Hats off to the youngster.